Look, I think you can't be sanguine. We keep seeing things, the last-minute things from President Biden about what's going on. This place has been completely roiled by what's going on this weekend when it came to sovereign nations being able to have GPUs, being able to have the key generative AI chips and accelerated computing chips. I spoke to Jensen Huang last night. I mean, there is just the CEO of NVIDIA. There's just chaos about what this administration is doing at the last minute. David, I don't know what the administration is doing at the last minute. It's almost as if they're just saying, you know what, we're going to throw up anything. We're going to do anything. I'm waiting for something really horrible, oil and gas, at the last minute, because that would be fitting with what these people are doing. I come back to the idea that we have one stock that is the elephant in the room, which is Nvidia. I believe that Nvidia has been hurt by the Commerce Department's rules. I think those rules, these are the ones that came out midnight this weekend, were a little absurd. They picked who we have 18 friends. 18 friends. I mean, by the way, EU has 29 countries. What happened to Mexico? What happened to Israel? What happened to Iceland, which is the 100% clean energy? They were absurd. They were completely out of touch. I think Nvidia can bounce back. But if without Nvidia, you have a market that's kind of rootless, because we know that Apple, the numbers look like they're a little bit too high. David, you know that this market survives on NASDAQ fuel, not on Dow fuel, and yet people still insist on talking about the Dow. I defer to you. How important is the Dow in terms of looking at what the market's really doing?
Not at all. In any way, shape, or form. It shouldn't even be discussed. It's just a marketing tool. It's a statistically insignificant index because, of course, it's price-weighted. I don't want to discuss it ever. Jim, I want to get back to NVIDIA.
I just didn't know.
The stock is up 1.4%. There were these reports out. They were out during our show yesterday, by the way, so I don't want to give too much voice to them, but they're around. The headline is basically top customers facing delays because of glitchy AI chip racks. You have any thoughts about this? I'm sure you're aware of it or heard the story yesterday.
Okay, story comes out when? The day when quiet period begins. That happened the previous quarter, the day when quiet begins. It was done by the information. David, it could be the disinformation. It could be, remember Pravda? I find that this kind of attack on NVIDIA has become standard. And instead, I go to Jensen Huang. Maybe he knows more because he's called the CEO. And he says that absolutely it's shipping 45 factories. They're getting them out as fast as they can. If anyone's complaining, give me a break. I think that is next to David Ricks's launch, Eli Lilly, for GLP-1s, I think the launch of Blackwell is as successful. So I get tired of the attacks on NVIDIA. They bore me.
They will continue, and you've taken. Yeah, I understand. You've taken your shots before, no doubt. We mentioned KB Home at the top.
I've been on the right side of NVIDIA history.
You, without a doubt. Nobody's arguing that.
When it was $2,
absolutely.
When it was $2, I named my dog NVIDIA, and you caught about 133 points.
It's the greatest.
Last I looked, that was still good. Remember, we are about trying to make money for people. We are not a political discussion.
Jim Cramer has some massive and important news to share about the new semiconductor regulations under Joe Biden's administration that have sparked a heated debate on its wider effects on the market and especially Nvidia. You really don't want to miss that now. Will the AI leader overcome this hurdle, or will this maneuver completely crash the market and Nvidia? Join us as we delve deep into the discussion and see what experts like Jim Cramer have to say about it. Welcome back to Investocracy.
Joining us now is Bernstein analyst Stacey Raskin. Stacey, always good to have you. What do you make of these newest regulations and the impact perhaps on some of the companies you cover, in particular NVIDIA?
Yeah, it's a little hard to judge impact right now, but we can talk about what they're doing. So they're putting constraints on the amount of compute capacity that can be shipped out of the U.S. to a certain number of countries. There's 18 countries where they're sort of like favored nation status, kind of business as usual. Customers in those countries can pretty much build as much as they want in those countries. There's a set of countries, China and Russia and other ones that are under arms embargo where you're not allowed to ship anything. None of those things are really any change. It's in the middle, the other countries where the interesting sort of dynamics happen. Those countries have very sharp limits on how much compute capacity can get put in them, unless the customers themselves sort of agree to conform to certain standards, basically, be good citizens and the like. And if that's the case, then those customers can build in those countries, but those customers will be limited by how much compute capacity they can deploy. So if you kind of run through it, it's probably manageable for now, but my guess would be as we go along over the next years, these constraints in general are probably unlikely to loosen, right? We're sort of in an arms race with some other actors in the world, and these constraints in general are likely to tighten up, and in general, that sort of thing it's not great, right? I think right now the overall demand for this stuff is such that this can probably be worked through. And like I said, it does seem like it's workable, but it remains to be seen how these dynamics will play out as we go forward, and whether and how these different kinds of constraints continue to get tightened. And now we have the new administration coming in, which throws a whole a new.
I know that correct, right? I mean, well, are your expectations they're going to maintain the rules that have been put in place?
Yeah, I don't. The companies that have been impacted, Nvidia and some others, have sort of been going at the new administration to try to to advocate for themselves. And I got to be honest, I kind of understand why the Biden administration did this, but at the same time, doing it a week before the the administration change, it feels a little shaky. So we'll see what the Trump administration does. But I want to say I'm not sure that the incoming administration. I mean, in general, this idea that we need to be tough on these other areas and we need to be U.S. first. I mean, these are things that I think the new administration is going to want. So I don't know whether or not they will be pulling these. There's some aspects of this that maybe they're not going to like, but my guess is, in general, over time, the sanctions probably never get looser. In general, they'll probably continue to get tighter.
At the heart of this unfolding drama is Nvidia's bewilderment over the U.S.'s fresh regulations, a 168-page rulebook that redefines the semiconductor landscape. With Nvidia GPUs deemed crucial for AI innovation, the move prompts divided opinions. Chris Miller, a semiconductor expert, suggests Nvidia could see dips in demand from restricted countries. Yet, Nvidia's formidable position and global appetite for AI technology may just buffer the blow. Among the speculation and strategy, Nvidia's Vice President of Government Affairs, Ned Finkel, poignantly warns this rule threatens to derail innovation and economic growth worldwide. But before going on with the video, are you into cryptocurrency? If so, check out our second channel, Investocracy Crypto. We bring you breaking news, expert analysis, and the latest trends in the fast-moving world of digital assets. Whether you're a seasoned crypto investor or just curious about the future of finance, we've got something for you. Click the link in the description to subscribe to Investocracy Crypto now. Don't miss out and stay ahead of the game. Now, let's get back to the video.
How do you explain to folks why you think the administration did this?
Well, I mean, it's their last chance to do something like this. And again, the general idea, trying to control what's out there from a national security standpoint, I understand the rationale. I'm not sure I necessarily totally agree with it, but I understand it. This is their last chance to do it. And again, they're going to force the new administration, if they want to do something about it, to do something about it. But they put a stake in the ground one way or the other with 1 week to go.
Stacey, today's highest performance chips are tomorrow's lower performance chips. I mean, how does that end up working? Is it always just that we want to stay ahead so one day they'll be able to get these chips or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you go through the regulations from yesterday, and we did it, it's preliminary, but when you read through it, as they're written, like I said, it doesn't seem like it's draconian as people. I think when some of the news stories on this came out last week, people were really, really worried that they wouldn't be able to ship anything, or that the amount that they would ship in general would be very, very curtailed. If you look at the favored nation countries, they're the major ones where a lot of this is going, and the U.S. guys can build as much as they need here in the U.S., and they have leeway to build outside of the U.S. to a fairly large degree. So when you sort of read through it, they weren't necessarily as draconian. They were fairly severe. Don't get me wrong. I was a little surprised when the news flow started to come up, but they weren't as completely draconian as maybe people had feared they might have been. And so, but this sort of stuff destroys volatility. And let's be honest. When the new administration comes in, it's going to be volatility every day. I've said this before, but when Trump was president last time, I'm spending every morning waking up. The first thing I do is check Twitter to see what the policy of the day is. So we'll probably be going back to some of that. Volatility in general is going to be higher.
Yeah, we'll be doing the same thing you are. Although I think it's Truth Social these days, not X.
Social.
Yeah. Stacey, thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.
The Biden administration, firm on national security grounds, envisions containing risks, AI tech morphing into mass surveillance or advanced weaponry. Republican allies back these necessary precautions against burgeoning AI prowess, particularly in China. Amidst the anticipation, Nvidia navigates not just a regulatory maze, but an AI chessboard where every move could redefine market dynamics. But before going any further, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
We want to move to one of the most widely held stocks in the market, that's Nvidia. So I was just looking at the charts myself. I'm not a chart master like you are, but I was looking at the charts myself. Since CES, which is a very small part of this chart, I'm looking at Nvidia, down just about 8% since there. We all thought that alligator jacket would lead to a rally. I guess it didn't, but you're saying there's a trend here that you're seeing as well that's setting up Nvidia for a potential bounce.
Yeah, so despite a lot of the carnage we've seen in semis since last July, when you look at Nvidia, this continues to be a standout leader. And similar to the broader S&P, the stock has pulled back to almost exactly where it needs to think that, okay, it's a great risk reward. Short-term weakness, but no longer-term trend damage. Investors want to be buyers into this pullback.
All right, so I just want to ask you this. Nvidia is a chip stock. These are cyclical stocks. So when you look at the technicals of this stock and you see this trend, any concern that the cycle comes to an end at some point, and that's the downturn?
Well, we have to let the stock tell us that. Okay. And unfortunately, we can't bet against ongoing uptrends. You know, most of the stocks is down about 15, 16% from this July peaks of last year. Nvidia still within striking distance of all-time highs. So, you know, it seems like a very severe short-term pullback. The key lesson for investors is always put the short-term price movement into context of what the longer-term charts are showing. And so the longer-term charts show this remains in great shape.
As the regulatory fog looms, Nvidia stands at a crossroad of transformation and opportunity, anticipating the rule's full enforcement under the subsequent Trump administration. The AI giant's adaptability is its greatest arsenal. Strategic navigation could anchor Nvidia not just as an AI leader, but as a catalyst driving U.S. dominance in global AI infrastructure. Yet, as Nvidia crafts its next chapter in the face of regulation, the debate invites you. Where do you stand on this subject? Share your thoughts. And finally, if you would like to know what companies like Nvidia have been up to these past few days, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. See you there.